We start this hour in North America. Protests against US President Donald Trump's immigration raids are spreading across the US, despite warnings from the White House. In Los Angeles, demonstrators hit the streets for a sixth straight day as military troops stand by. Trump says he won't allow mob rule in America. His press secretary blamed California leaders for fanning the flames. Let's take a look at what the US press secretary had to say.
Well, President Trump was in contact with Governor Gavin Newsom despite some of the claims he's made in the last couple of days. The president called the governor on Friday evening and told him to let law enforcement in California do their jobs. And the Los Angeles Police Department, by the way, are fantastic people. They are trying to do the work that they've so bravely signed up to do, to enforce the law. But they have been kneecapped by incompetent Democrat policies. It's a good question the president is raising, and one we are looking into, about who is funding these insurrectionists and these rioters and these protesters and these illegal criminals. And I have updates for you on the numbers, by the way. Since June 6th, there have been 330 illegal aliens that have been arrested as part of these riots in Los Angeles. 113 of those illegal aliens had prior criminal convictions. And overall, and this includes arrests of American citizens, there's been 157 people arrested for assault and obstruction-related charges, including the attempted murder of a police officer.
Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth told lawmakers the deployment of over 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines is lawful and constitutional. While in Mexico City, President Claudia Sheinbaum confirmed that 61 Mexican nationals have been detained. She slammed the US raids but denied encouraging protests or violence. Back in Los Angeles, Mayor Karen Bass says the unrest was provoked by the White House. She's demanding a direct conversation with President Trump. District Attorney Nathan Hochman pledged to protect peaceful protesters but warned that violent offenders will face charges. Over a dozen people now face prosecution, including 2 men accused of throwing Molotov cocktails. At the same time, US Attorney Bill Isaili vowed more arrests after charging 2 men for throwing Molotov cocktails during these LA protests, warning rioters this is the beginning, not the end. Let's have a look at what Bill Isaili had to say.
This morning we are announcing that we have filed federal criminal complaints against 2 defendants who engaged in violence during the recent civil unrest. The last few days we have seen vicious attacks on our agents and our properties here in the federal government. The escalation of violence by these rioters poses a serious threat to our agents and the safety of the public. Throwing rocks, explosives, assaulting agents, and committing other acts of violence are extremely dangerous and will not be tolerated.
Well, on the military front, Major General Scott Sherman said Marines are not conducting arrests and will not carry live ammunition. He confirmed the troops are in training and will soon deploy to assist with civil disturbances. Here is what he had to say.
So, with our orders directed by the President, the Secretary of Defense has mobilized. Right now it's 4,700 personnel, so 4,000 from the California National Guard, 700 Marines. And our mission is to protect federal agencies, our federal partners.
Well, several updates there from the past 24 hours in LA and across the US. Joining us to discuss them is Adit Kataria, Foreign Affairs expert. Adit, thank you ever so much for joining us on the programme today. Let's first look at this dispute that's going on between Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass and the Trump administration. It's deeply divided between these politicians. It seems that one side is saying that the other is inciting these riots and making them worse, while the Trump administration is saying we're needed to protect the people and make sure LA doesn't fall into further chaos. What's your opinion on this extremely divided line?
At least internationally, is very interesting because the way it's being played out, with Mexican flags and Palestinian flags being waved off during these protests, it basically shows, and that is what the White House is actually exploiting, the fact that America is being invaded by foreigners and illegals, and all of this optics is actually playing into Donald Trump's rhetoric especially to his electorate that elected him into and propelled him into power. The fact of the matter lies that what Trump is trying to say is that we need the rule of law to be instated, whereby immigration laws will basically catch hold of anybody who's flouting them and is illegally, settling themselves in the United States, and they will basically be, deported back. So all of this started on June 6th when ICE carried out multiple raids in multiple locations. I think the initial arrests were about 44 illegals, and that sort of propelled these current protests that we are seeing at this point. The protests should have been, conducted in a peaceful manner. Largely, it was, but there were massive amount of reports of downtown Los Angeles being, quite violent, which the White House has again used as information to sort of justify it, galvanizing the National Guard and the Marines to go ahead and curb these protests. So what they're saying is their contention is, yes, First Amendment is fine. We do not have a problem with the peaceful protests. Where we have a problem is where the peaceful protests are basically providing cover fire to those indulging in mass criminality. And they're using incidents like what happened in 2020 in Minnesota, where a police station had been burned down to the ground, as one of those incidents to go ahead and galvanize this sort of National Guard and Marines. Joshua.
Yes, absolutely. Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth has spoken about this troop mobilisation, National Guard, Marines, both being utilised in LA. He says that it's lawful and constitutional, but on this programme we've had US experts who say that's not the case. Is this just the US administration saying what they need to move forward with the policies they want, including troop mobilisation, or is what they're doing actually constitutional?
Well, when it comes down to the sheer legality of things, I think the Trump administration is well within their rights to go ahead and federalize the National Guards and Marines, because this is a case in point of time. I mean, it's happened previously in 1965. It's previously happened in 1992 as well. So there are legal precedents which the Trump administration will use if they were sued by any of the governors of these states, and they will make their case in the court of law to basically justify their actions as preventive and as preventive measures to ensure that citizens of the country are protected as a consequence, because law enforcement agencies do not have that kind of power or do not have those kind of resources available to their disposal to be able to settle down these kind of protests. Joshua.
Yes, and looking politically now, of course, LA is a hotbed and a flashpoint for these protests, which in points have turned violent. But further protests have taken place across the United States. There is widespread protest expected on Saturday across the country. How is this going to impact Trump politically, given that he won, of course, the presidency, the House, the Senate, but most importantly, that popular vote in the last election? These policies are divisive, and clearly there's a proportion of America that doesn't agree with them. What could be the impact for him heading towards some midterm elections?
Well, from a midterm elections perspective, I don't think this is going to impact Trump massively. In fact, on the contrary, I think this is going to benefit him, because the electorate, the MAGA voters who actually voted him into power, voted him primarily because he took a tough stance against illegal immigration, and for them, he's standing by what he's promised in his election rhetorics and his election campaign. His election campaign was all about I am going to be using force if need be to deport illegal aliens out of the United States, and that is what he's doing at the moment. So from a midterm election perspective, I don't think this is going to impact him massively. On the contrary, I think it's going to be yielding positive results, given the fact that he's actually doing what he's set out as a mission to basically do. The people who are predominantly against him are the typical liberal voters and the sort of left-leaning intelligentsia of United States, which is what is the worrying concern here. What they should be doing is they should be standing by the rule of law, and the rule of law basically suggests that if you're an illegal alien, then the state has rights to basically curb your access to public health or public benefits, etc. And that is what they're not doing. So they're basically providing cover fire to illegal aliens, which is, from an optics perspective, not great either domestically or internationally.
Yes, absolutely. And Adit, to bring an end to our discussion, of course, Trump's been very vocal on wanting to deport potentially millions of migrants, the use of Guantanamo Bay, the use of troops on the southern border as well to limit migrants coming in. Does this reaction from pockets within the US public show that it might not be as simple as Trump thought to carry out these foreign policies, irrelevant of what the courts say? Now the people are reacting, and could the people influence Trump's policy moving forward?
It's going to be easy, and I think Donald Trump knows that very well as well. He is, again, he's playing the optics hand as well. So he's trying to please his electorate. Long ago, he made this speech about, over 2 million illegals being housed in California as a consequence of what Judge Mariana Flazer had done in 1994, where she struck down a proposition called Bill 187, which was an initiative designed to discourage illegal immigrants by denying them access to public benefits. And he said this before. So all in all, from an optics perspective, he's going to be doing wonderful. Whether or not he'll be successful in deporting those 20 million odd illegal aliens living in the United States is something that we will have to wait and watch, Joshua.
Adit Qatari, thank you ever so much for providing that insight and joining us on the programme. We will, of course, bring you all the updates from North America as those protests nationwide continue to rage on. But we move on